E-learning application PROMIS. Realisation. When entering the second part of the game, the menu on the left will change slightly. Above all, an overview section will be added, in which you will see data on the 3 main monitored areas of the project: information on costs, time and parameters. There is only one for Ecohouse, image. You can read what parameters the project has and how they work in the description section. Default, current and target values are displayed. In the case of Ecohouse, image is equivalent to the company reputation, and your job is to ensure that its value is not negative at the end of the realization. If it is, this means that you have damaged the company's reputation. This will be reflected in your evaluation. Further in this section, you will find the Next Round button, which you will use to play and complete one round, 1 week for Ecohouse, within the game. Varying circumstances can influence the course of the round. For example, bad weather will occur, and you will not be able to do certain work, or your unreliable work team fails to show up for a scheduled shift. You always have one or more options to solve the situation. Most event variants mean incurring additional costs, changing the image level, or even blocking work for several rounds. As a result, work planning may be reduced from 100% to less. You'll find this out in the Gantt section, which you know already from the planning phase. The open-ended work view suggests that you will need to plan work by adding work teams to reach 100%. It will often also be necessary to correct dependency relationships between jobs due to work delays by means of work team transfers. You can make all moves within work teams in the Edit Work Plan section. Remember that you must monitor the dependency relationships of individual jobs. When moving or rescheduling work teams, keep in mind that the closer you make these moves to the current week, the more expensive it will be for most projects. Moving work teams to another week is usually a cheaper option than recalling them and adding them again. The amounts for rescheduling and cancellation vary depending on the job, as well as whether it is yours or someone else's work team. This situation is the same in real life. If suppliers have little time to respond and adjust, it costs you more because it is difficult for them to adapt. Details on individual additional costs can be found in both the Team section and the Description section. These costs always show you pop-ups when you enter team edits. Therefore, if you want to cancel or add a work team, click on the worker icon and confirm the action with the OK button. The same applies for the planning phase. If moving the work teams to another week, use the arrows below the work teams in that week. Pay attention to the display of individual rounds, both in the planning phase and the realization phase upon adjustments to the work team plan. As you scroll through the round overview, you'll see a shifted offer, which can cause subsequent adjustment and planning errors. Once you have resolved all the problems that have occurred and adjusted the work teams at your discretion, you can continue playing the next rounds of the game. For projects such as Ecohouse, where you receive regular advances from an investor, it is good to occasionally visit the cash flow section, where you can, for example, repay a loan or part of it early and save part of the interest expenses. Many projects allow to negotiate. Usually, as with Ecohouse, projects are set to count the rounds lost due to external influences. In the case of Ecohouse, you lose the rounds in which the work was blocked due to bad weather. You can negotiate with the investor to extend the end of the project by these lost rounds. After completing the last job, you will see an overview of the results of your realization. Your lecturer will have these results available automatically. Finally, we add a few tips and advice. Don't forget to watch the current windows. For example, if you happen to have multiple tabs open, you might inadvertently proceed on the basis of an old, out-of-date Gantt chart. If you click, for example, on the cost calculation section or on the back button during realization, the program may automatically return you to the planning phase, and the menu on the left will also change. In this case, you must click on the Realization Second Phase section, where you choose the plan with which you entered realization. Subsequently, you will get back to the realization phase of the game. Once you have studied the description, the necessary project parameters and all the conditions, deal then with the technological dependency relationships of jobs. It is advisable to first sketch for yourself, for example, a simple network chart of how the individual jobs follow each other, and only then start assigning individual work teams to the jobs. If you are able to achieve valid dependency relationships on your first try, it makes sense to start addressing plan improvements. So look at what known and unknown risks await the project, and how to respond to them by allocating reserves. In the case of Ecohouse, there are known risks of weather and unreliability of work teams, but unknown risks are events that will take place during realization and will cost you several rounds of time. For known risks, you can react to them directly, but for unknown ones only indirectly, with the help of reserves, i.e., an unscheduled round falling between two consecutive jobs. It makes sense to spread them on a critical path within the project. At the same time, it is wise to look at the costliness of jobs and protect with reserves mainly the very expensive ones, whose modifications in the realization phase would mean high additional costs. Technical warning: pay attention to certain functions and buttons. For example, in the Overview section in the Realization part, you should not use the back key, because after having previously clicked on the Next Round button, such an operation would shift your time in the project by 1 round. Similarly, the F5 key or the Refresh function could be retained.